Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wholesaling the Cool Way. This is somewhere in the high 30s now. We're pushing on 40 episodes coming up.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm Mark. This is my son, Jasper. We're the Cools, and we both have wholesaling businesses. Jasper lives in Arizona. I live in North Carolina. We both work in the North Carolina market. He specializes more in houses, and I've been specializing in land. I do houses as well, and I also do some creative stuff with subject to and owner financing, which is fun for me. So that's us in a nutshell. I guess we've both done in the ballpark of 100 deals at this point. I don't know. I just kind of stopped counting a lot. uh, but yeah, so hopefully we can bring some value. And this is just a mastermind we started years ago, and we started creating it as a podcast. So thanks for joining us. Um, Normally we start off with some education and inspiration, anything we've been inspired by or learned from this past week. And you got stuff for that, Jasper?
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, we did our vision statements offline, but definitely I got inspired this week to not necessarily rethink my vision for wholesaling, but just rethink my vision in general. I listened to this podcast with Doug Hopkins, and since I moved out here, I've seen him quite a bit. I remember when I got my first gym membership, he was on TV constantly, and I had heard about him before on other podcasts and stuff. But just seeing that, like living here and seeing that, I was like, wow, that's impressive. And I was like, if he's on this many commercial spots, like how much revenue, how many deals is this guy doing? And so I finally got my answer this week on this podcast. And so they close about 140 deals a month.
Wow.
And so it's ironic that you were just sharing numbers, right? Because I don't have a tally, but I would guess I'm somewhere around 200 deals closed
Okay.
in my lifetime, maybe more. I don't know. But this guy's doing that every month. And so I was just blown away by that, And at the same time, it comes to the punchline, and he is spending $1 million a month in marketing. So, you
Right.
spend that much money, you're going to get good results. But still, it's very impressive to operate a business like that. And he only has 13 people on his team to do that many deals. And so I
Right.
was
So
just
200, if he's doing 140 deals a month and he's making 20, then he's making what, like 280 a month?
well, 2.8 million a month. Yeah.
2.8 million a month and spending a million a month. Right. So he's
Yeah.
making money. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
probably
So
doing more than 20 average per deal.
probably because his markets are Arizona, California, and Vegas. So three of
Yeah.
the
So it's
biggest
probably
markets.
30, 40, 50 deal per deal average.
Yeah, three of the biggest markets in the country, which
Yeah.
is even more impressive. But obviously, this is his bread and butter, Arizona. He's lived here almost his whole life. He shared his story, but he moved here from New York when he was in high school, and he's been here ever since. But anyways, he's doing like a large portion of those are just in Arizona, which is even more impressive because we know this is the guru capital of the world. And so
So competitive. Yeah.
yeah, he shared that he's doing somewhere between 80 and 90 just in Phoenix, Arizona, like the
Wow.
greater Phoenix area.
That's
And
crazy.
and so that's even more impressive. He's doing maybe 50-ish in Vegas and California combined, but he's doing like 80 or 90 a month just in Arizona. So that's even more
Wow.
impressive. But yeah,
Does he have
just
his
super
own
cool.
podcast?
What's that?
Does he have his own podcast or is he on somebody else?
No, he was on the Investor Lift pod, so we could link that or I could send it to you. But definitely
Okay.
one that you should check out. It was really, really good. But yeah, so I was just super inspired by that podcast. I mean, it's just like I've always kind of had a limiting belief for myself on how big a wholesaling business can actually get. And just thinking like I'm running up against the wall at my current like level where I'm at. And
Oh
then
yeah,
I
me too. Yeah.
and then I hear this just completely shatters those beliefs, so it's really cool to see. And like it's not like I haven't tried to kind of find that before. Like I went to CG, I didn't find anyone doing anywhere near that, like nowhere near. And then like I've been in a bunch of other groups and I've met a lot of great people who are doing a lot of great things, but never at that level. So that was just really, really inspiring for me. And at the same time, he followed the Alex Hormozy thing. He's been wholesaling and in real estate for 30 years. So it's not like, he's an overnight success. So he's gradually built this up
Yeah.
by staying in the same industry like Alex preaches, just doing the same thing over and over and over again, regardless of how boring it might be. So I was just really inspired by that. And him and the co-host of the podcast, he's another huge investor out here, but he's not a wholesaler. He's kind of like the Chris of Arizona. I think I shared that with you before. But his name is Zachary Keeps, and apparently he has just a lot of single family homes out here, like a massive portfolio. And he shared that him and Doug have probably done over 1,000 deals together, over the years
Wow.
and stuff. And just super cool. So super cool to hear his story and hear about his business. And yeah, that was super inspiring for me. So that's probably my main thing. But
That's crazy.
yeah,
It's just mind blowing. Yeah.
yeah. And all he's doing is TV and radio and I think like Google ads. So it's all like the super expensive channels, all the inbound stuff. But he still works in the business. So that's one thing I thought was interesting. He he loves real estate, so it's become his passion. I don't think it started that way. I think he was very transparent that he was just trying to make money, but he just loves. I don't know if he necessarily loves real estate. He loves doing deals, is what he said. He loves like making a deal happen. And he said he still gets that high when he signs a deal, whether it's 5,000 or 50,000. He still gets like an energy boost every time he sells a deal. That's what he does right now. He still sells all the deals. So he's completely not involved on the front end in terms of marketing and locking up contracts. But he has such a great relationship with all his buyers, like Zachary being one of them, that he just can easily sell a deal like by himself. So he still does that and he still enjoys it. And he goes on all the appointments like after they lock up the contract. Like he's the one that goes and walks these properties and gets the pictures, at least in Arizona, not in the other markets. But and he gets the pictures, and then as soon as he gets the pictures, like he'll just sell it like immediately because he has such a great network out here.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. 30
but
years, man.
yeah, yeah, but I thought that was really cool. He shared, I could go in depth, but he shared a bunch about how he got started buying foreclosures and then he started his own auction platform and all this stuff. And really cool story. So anyone who's interested in growing a business, I would definitely recommend listening to that one. Really good
Yeah,
one.
that's mind blowing because at the top of the thing, I was like, so I've been in business about 3 years and closed around 100 deals, and you've been in business 4 years or so and closed around 200. And this
Yeah,
guy's closing 140 a month.
yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. So it's just a big reset for me on my beliefs and everything. It's really
Yeah, and even in like the local RIA, that's a standard, right? There was this one group that I used to go to, I've shared with you, called the 100 Club, right? And you couldn't go unless you had closed
yeah.
100 deals. That's like a standard, like, oh,
Yeah,
you closed 100 deals. And this
yeah,
guy's like, yeah, I closed 100 deals last month
yeah.
in Arizona alone, right? Or whatever. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So
And they were
crazy.
talking about that. There's a higher level of CG. I wasn't in it last time, but that's for like if you close 100 deals a year. And I remember when I first signed up for CG, I was like, oh my God, like wouldn't that be amazing? And this guy's doing it every month. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Pretty
And
cool
it
to see.
does go back to, like you said, like how much are you spending on overhead? But it sounds like he's got the overhead dialed in too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely spending a lot. He shared $1 million a month in marketing. I'm not sure what his overhead is, probably another couple 100,000 on staff and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's essentially 2.5xing his money if our estimates are accurate, or 3xing maybe. So,
Yeah.
you know, but I think once you do scale to that much spend, then a lower ROI is kind of anticipated, I
Still a
think.
lot of money too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because
It's a
like
lower
3x,
ROI, but it's a big chunk of money. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, because 3x of 1 million is way better than 10x of 10,000. It's like
Yeah.
it's better. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very cool. It was very cool. And he's like the in-person model, at least, in Arizona, obviously. And he has business partners in the other two markets. So he's just pretty much 50-50 partners with two of his employees that started off with him very early on. They basically branched out and both moved to Vegas and California, and then they run those offices in person there. So it's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And that's Investor Lift podcast. I can put that in the show notes. Or
Yeah, I'll
have
send it to you now so I don't
our
forget.
new person put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a social media person to start doing this stuff because I'm not good at it. Um, so yeah, I'll jump in. I don't have a lot actually, but the Matt Larson thing was cool to watch this week, talking about how to profit in a downturn, and he walked us through just like what he would suggest to make money in an economic downturn, which he thinks is coming. A lot of people think is coming.
Yeah.
Um, but he was like, how can you make $10 million in a downturn? And he had a nuts and bolts process for it. And it was pretty inspiring because he's done it and he's helped other people do it too. And it's just about, I mean,
Yeah.
it's more about a buy and hold thing than a wholesaling thing. But you can do it, in the downturn becomes a buyer's market and you can buy houses cheap in good markets. And maybe you're not buying 100 houses and making 100,000 per house, but you might buy 5 or 10 houses and, make a good chunk when the market turns back up. And so it's
Yeah.
cool to hear that strategy of just like, hey, you know, keep your cash on hand when you think a market downturn is coming and sell off whatever you have and get all your cash. And then when the market hits the bottom or close to the bottom, you can't accurately predict it, but buy up everything you can in good neighborhoods and then ride it back up and sell at the
Right.
top. So
Yeah.
it was, it's just cool to be a part of a mastermind where a guy's been doing it for 18 years and paying attention and keeping stats and really knows what's going on and can spell it out. So I
Yeah.
appreciate him for that.
Definitely.
Otherwise, yeah, I didn't do a lot this week. I, looked at some Alex Hormozy stuff just when I was on my lunch break or whatever. Um, and he preaches a lot of the same stuff. But what hit me this week was like he was talking about sort of a limbo space or a trough on one of the ones I watched where you've been working and working and you're like not at the level where you want to like rub elbows with, you're not at the level of the people you want to be rubbing elbows with, but you've outgrown most of your friends and maybe your family and other people, and you're kind of in this middle ground. And
Mhm.
and that resonated with me because I feel like I've been having that experience too of like I know like where I want to be and I know what that looks like in terms of people. And I connect with those people to some degree in some of the real estate stuff, but it's like, we talk about vivid vision and having world class friends is one of the things that Dan Sullivan talks about, or what's the other term that we've used of like friends that uplift you and inspire you.
Yeah.
There's a transformational relationships. There it is. Getting to that place, and I feel like I'm in that limbo space in between, relationships that I've had and relationships that I know I want, and right in the middle. But he also just talks about like making the day to day the win, right? Instead of like going, I'll win when I get here. Like if I if I know what the process is and I know what I need to do each day to get to there, and I do the thing I need to do each day, that's the victory. That's the W. And if I
Yeah.
stay there, I will get to where I'm going. So I appreciate that perspective too of like not having the goal so far out in front of you and being like, oh my God, I'm striving. But like, hey, if I do these things today, if I look at what's going on in my business and I know that the top things, most high leveraged actions I can do today are these three, and I get those done, then I'm moving the ball and I win. Right.
Yeah.
So that's those are my takeaways from listening to some of Alex Hormozy's content this week, and he has a ton of content, and most of it is really great for most people. I think there's some stuff that he goes off into the weeds with things that I feel like don't apply to me when he's talking about business growth and stuff, because when I'm looking at wholesaling, but most of his stuff, anytime I listen to him, he's got really great insights and usually inspires me.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend Alex Hormozy. We always recommend him on this podcast. We both really like him.
Yeah.
Uh, he's a great model of someone who just, figured it out and he's giving back. Uh, yeah, so that's the education inspiration portion, and then let's do a business check-in. So normally this is just victories, gains, stories about stuff that's going on, KPIs, any challenges, tools, and tips and tricks that you might have learned throughout the week. And yeah, take it away, Jasper.
Alrighty. Uh, well, I'll just start with KPIs for the week. So this week we got 145 leads. We made 105 offers. We got 3 contracts. Didn't or yeah, we did sell one this week. So sold one this week and closed one this week.
Nice.
So yeah. Thank you.
My belt's way up there.
Thank you. So yeah, those are the 30,000 foot view for the week. And also I thought I could start sharing my SMS KPIs too, in case that'd be helpful. So also helpful for me too, because I just recently, I think I shared this a couple weeks ago, but about 2 weeks ago, we changed around our launch control, the way like our accounts are divvied up essentially. So I had an older account that I was running a bunch of volume through. I turned that all the way down to the lowest level and kind of cranked up volume on our newest account because as we've talked about before, when you're uploading data and it's already in your system, it can become very frustrating and hard to add more data. So that's why I started a new launch control account. And that one's a bit down this month. This is this month statistics. So that 85% delivery and 10% response. That's on average across follow-up and initial campaigns, but it's a little bit down than where it was before, which is a bummer. And then my second best account is a little bit better than that one, which is at 82% delivery. So delivery is slightly lower, but our response rate's at 13.5. So that's about 4 points or 3 or 4 points better than the other one. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I could check my oldest one too, but that was my worst one before. I wonder if it's the better one now. But yeah, that one's about the same. So about 83% and 10% response. So that's where I'm at across 3 different accounts. So on average, we're low 80s and about 11% response if you average them all out, I guess. So yeah, that's that if that's helpful for anybody. And in terms of victories for this week, we finally closed on this wholesale deal that I bought. It was a major fail by me buying this deal, but I finally closed it and got my money back. So that's nice.
Did you make a profit?
Yeah, we made it like 11,000 on it, so it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like I just kind of recycled my money, I guess, for, for 2 months. Whether I would have made, I broke it down and it made myself feel even worse. So I could share that or I could not, but I'm trying to share victories. So
Is it actually a loss? Well, you can talk about it later. You can talk
well,
about
I
it in
mean,
stories and breakdowns.
pretty much, because I did the breakdown. I was like, well, if I would have just, because I ended up paying cash for this one because I thought it'd be in and out, and it wasn't a super expensive property. So I was like, I'll just buy it cash. I won't go through all the hoops with the lenders because I hate doing all the documents and all that stuff. It's annoying. So I was like, I'll just buy it cash. I'll put it on the market. I'll sell it real quick. Have my money back in 3 weeks. Right? That's what I was thinking. Because multiple realtors I reached out to, I got like 4 different opinions. They all said the same number. So I was like, okay, sounds good. And for me, I was thinking the same number myself, around that or a little bit higher. And so I was like, okay, cool. It was going to be like a 40K profit. So I was like, cool, no brainer. Like we were going to make 10K on the wholesale, so 40K on the wholesale. Yeah, let's do it. And ended up not being the case at all. But when I broke down numbers, I was like, if I would have just not done anything and wholesale this property, not only would I have made the same amount of money I already made, which is 11,000, I would have made 10. But my money just sitting in my bank account would have made 4.5% interest over 2 months, which would be more than what I made. So it's just like just a total fail. But that's
Yeah,
okay.
but you took a swing, and I think that's good. I mean, you thought there was potential to make 30 or 40, and you took a swing, and
Yeah,
you still ended up in the black. So
yeah.
I think it's worth it to take the swing as long as you're not, ending up in the red on it.
Definitely. Yeah. And it was also good for me. I think the biggest thing that was good for me was kind of getting a pulse of the market. And I shared this before, but kind of seeing like, okay, the market is slowing down and it is becoming more of a buyer's market in real time. So that was kind of cool to see. We're definitely not anywhere near like the bottom of the crash, but I do think we're at the part where the roller coaster is starting to go down. I think we're at that
Yeah.
part. And who knows how long that's going to take? It could be 6 months or it could be another 3, 4 years, but we're definitely on the downswing, in my opinion, from listing that deal. And then, I shared talking to some other buyers and stuff.
Yeah, I agree because we have a deal similar, and we talked about this last time too.
Yeah.
But we've watched it. We've watched the Zillow estimate drop from
It's the worst.
from
Yeah.
200 to 160 something over the past few months. So
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was that. That's kind of the victory and the story and everything on that one. Um, in terms of other victories this week, we got an amazing 5-star review. It's probably our best review that we've gotten, and it was really just detailed and really sweet. And this guy was awesome to work with, so it's cool. I think I shared this, but he actually followed up with me multiple times, and he was like, "Hey, like I want to leave you guys a review. Like, how how can I leave you a review? And I was like, well, we've already, sent you the review link like 5 times, but he ended up finally doing it. He's an older guy, so I think it just took him
Yeah,
a while. I think it took him a while to figure it out, but super sweet guy. He just left us like a glowing review. It's really nice, like paragraphs. It's
that's
just
awesome.
making us, and it's also great because I shared that I thank you. I shared
Another
that
good thing.
I got a 1 star, and so now to have this one right on top of that 1 star feels good, because it's like this is not indicative of our business. Like, look at this review,
Yeah.
so it's awesome. That's awesome to have that there, and it's
I
really
used
really
that
nice.
this past week. I can tell a story about that too. I used that to turn a seller around. I was like, look at our reviews. We have 5-star
Yeah,
reviews. It
yeah.
does help if you can build that.
It does help for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think I shared with you. I don't know if I shared on the pod, but I was trying to get up to 50 reviews this year, 55 stars. And so not counting the bad review that we were at 30. So we're over halfway there. I'm hoping that we can get there. That's kind of a stretch, considering how many sellers do leave reviews. It seems like it's like 10%, but I'm hoping to bump that up. So yeah.
You can get them from buyers too.
That's true. Yeah, I don't do that. I should start asking for reviews from buyers. Um, but yeah, so that was a major victory for us. That was awesome. Um, and then another victory was my bookkeeping team. I told them that I wanted them to kind of be more on top of things for me and get my reports quicker to me, and they did that this month and hopefully going forward. So that was a victory for me. I like having my reports I told them I wanted to have them no later than the first week of the month for the
Yeah.
month prior because they were getting them to me like the third week. And I was like, this doesn't work for me.
That's what my accountant just told me he was going to do. We were like,
Yeah,
okay, we'll do your bookkeeping service. And he was like, okay, we'll have the reports by the third week. I'm like,
yeah.
really?
I was like, dude, we're already into the next month at that point. Like, what's what's going on? And so I was thankful for them for doing that. And then another victory for me that I found that I shared with you via text, but I was reaching out on 123 Notary for a notary for this deal, and something I shouldn't be doing anyways, but I was doing that and I found this dude and I thought it was just a regular notary. So I reached out as normal and he called me, super nice guy. And he just told me all about his service. And funny enough, he already works with the attorney that I was closing this deal with. And like he basically hooked it all up for me. But I share with you via text, but basically they're a nationwide notary company. So this was another thing that inspired me. But they're a nationwide notary service and they make it like Velocity REOs or NVMS is another one that I use for pictures. But both of those services are not amazing.
Yeah.
They have great potential, but they're not amazing. This service is amazing. And so you go on there, you set up an account, and they make it so seamless. So you just literally go in there, place a new order, you type in the seller's information, their contact information, you upload the docs right there on their portal, and then that's it. That's it.
That's
And you
so
update
great.
and you upload the closing attorney as well and their contact info. And then as soon as you submit the order, there's like an automatic email from their system that emails you and copies in the closing attorney. So you're all right there in the thread and you're all updated along the way. So you're like, hey, we received your notary order. We're going to reach out for scheduling. We'll update you when it's scheduled. Then they email you right back. Hey, we spoke to the seller. It's confirmed at this time. We'll send you the scans when it's done. And then that's it. And so
Do they do the return label too?
they don't
Like
provide
we normally do a UPS label and send it with the documents.
Yeah, so my attorney usually does that. So basically, like you can connect him with your attorney and he'll just do everything. Or if your attorney sends you the docs and a label, you can upload both and then they'll do that. So either way. But yeah,
What's the name
super
of this
cool.
company?
It's RAH, so Raw Signing Service. So for anyone who's interested, these guys are literally nationwide. So it's really impressive. But basically, once you submit an order, then he just finds a notary for you. They reach out to the seller, they schedule it, everything, and then they'll just invoice your closing attorney. You don't even have to pay them. So, and it's free to set up an account. So it's awesome. So he told me like I can set up an account and I can use it, but basically he told me, in a nice way that I don't need to be doing this. Like just connect him with the closing attorneys I like to work with. He'll reach out to them and he'll make them do all this, so we don't have to do it because it's
Yeah,
super
that's great.
simple. It's super simple, so yeah,
It
I love
takes a lot of time and energy, and it's a
it.
potential in our business, at least. It's been a potential place where errors can occur
Absolutely.
because miscommunication with the notary, you don't get the documents there, or they don't understand the documents, they don't get them notarized properly, or somebody drops the ball with the shipping label, or whatever it is. Like there's so many just different little the scheduling with the seller in that process of scheduling a mobile notary, and there's just so many things that can go wrong. So
Yeah.
um, especially if you, in our case, we have a team member who might have other duties and they're doing that too, and so that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've also noticed, like I just had a closing this week that I didn't do this on. And last year, like I made it a point for myself. I was like, every single closing that the seller's not in person, I'm gonna have a mobile notary. And so I pretty much used my friend, our friend Duncan and my friend Jonathan for pretty much everything. And just personally, I would text them. And so it's easy for me because I'm friends with them both. I would text them, hey, can you help me with this? And they do the same thing for me. Like they reach out, they schedule it, everything. So it's kind of hands off for me. I'm just basically sending them a text. And so I did that. But the downside there, and I love supporting both of these guys' businesses, but I was paying them every time. So that's a downside because, you do 50 deals, you pay someone $100, that's $5,000, so
Well, and
that's
those guys
it's
aren't
a change.
always, I mean, depending on how much they have to travel and do, it's not, like the 123 notary is generally cheaper, I've found,
Yeah,
than, you know, it, oftentimes those people charge you $50 or $75. Sometimes it's 95,
yeah,
but, when you're paying somebody to drive an hour or two, they justifiably charge more money, but you can end up spending, $200 or 250
yeah,
sometimes on this. And that adds up. Like you said, if you're doing, almost everybody closes remotely now, and you do a few of those every month, it adds up pretty quickly. So that's
yeah,
great.
yeah. But I mean, I was saying that to say that when you do hire a notary, then you can almost ensure that it's going to be like a smooth closing. Because if you just send the docs to the seller and you like, hey, here's the docs, here's a FedEx label,
Oh,
like
forget about it. Yeah.
it's not going to happen. It's
Yeah.
absolutely not going to happen.
Then you're following up, and they don't understand, and then they don't notarize them
Yeah,
properly.
yeah,
Then they don't send them back in time. And then the other
yeah,
thing that happens that just happened to me on a deal is like the seller did notarize stuff and send it back, and the seller will always be sold by FedEx or UPS the most expensive rate that we have to
yeah,
reimburse. Like, she's like,
yeah,
yeah, I sent them back by FedEx. It was $110, and I'm like,
yeah,
we didn't need those documents there on their fastest service,
yeah,
but they're always going to sell that. Well, if you want them there by tomorrow, you better use this service. And then
yeah,
they just pay it, because we
yeah,
pay $11, for UPS overnight, it's like,
yeah.
and they're like, yeah, I sent it. So can you reimburse me the 110? So that'll happen too.
Yeah. Or they'll send it snail mail and then you just have to do the
Oh
docs.
yeah. The
Then
other
you have to
side,
do the docs
in
all over
two
again.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bunch of horror stories that we could tell about that. But just for a closing this week, I didn't do this and we don't know where the docs are. So totally my fault.
Yeah.
But on this one, like the attorneys had already the attorney didn't really keep me in the loop. There's an attorney that I'm no longer working with anymore, unfortunately. But they didn't really keep me in the loop. They had already sent the seller docs and everything, and so I was trying to like follow up with people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we already sent those to them," and they said they were signing them. I was like, "Oh cool." And so then I reached out to the sellers. They're like, "Oh yeah, we signed them and sent them back." I was like, "Cool. Well, we don't have them, so I
Do you
don't
have
know what's going
tracking?
on."
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know what's going on, so I'll have to figure that out next week. But yeah, so notaries are a huge part of a successful closing for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's
so
great. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna implement that in my business for sure.
yeah, definitely. So that was a victory, definitely. And then otherwise, uh, what else? What else? What else? I know I had something else I wanted to share with you. But I got sidetracked. Well, that's okay. Three contracts this
Well,
week was a victory. Um, and yeah, I mean that might be it. So maybe we should switch over so I can hear about your EA. We could do like a segment where you share what are what the things you've learned already working with your new EA. Could do that
yeah,
easily.
we could do that. And if you remember what you were gonna share, you can always pop back in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for challenges, I could wrap a bow on it. But I think my main challenge is that I was 1 for 4 this week on closings. So hopefully we'll close those next week.
Yeah. Well, we had that the prior week. I shared with you too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we got three pushed till next week. One, we have no idea where the docks are, so that's awesome. The other two look like they were just lender delays, so hopefully we'll close those Monday. But yeah, I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, thanks for checking in. A lot of good stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if something occurs to you, you can always pop back in.
All right.
Um, I was just looking at my end of day reports here, my KPI report from my SMS guy. So I might as well just do SMS since it's pulled up here. Because you checked in about your stats and people have been asking us about SMS stuff. So
Yeah.
um, let's see, our delivery rate for the week was 79.68%, so 80%, and our response rate for the week was 11.32, which is up for us because we were in the single digits last week. So one
Nice.
difference we did this week is we signed up for Skipify. We signed up for like a pro package with them, and I think I shared this last episode, but it's pretty comparable to direct skip as far as the cost per skip. And we just figured we'd try different lists. So we have seen an uptick in response rate, and maybe that's because Skipify lists are a little bit better. He actually on Saturday I saw his end of day, and the delivery rate was 98% on Saturday, and that was
Wow.
a Skipify list. Yeah.
Wow. That's
so
amazing.
so this 80% delivery rate this week was a combination, I think, of direct skip and Skipify lists. But yeah, we had Orange County list that did 14.5% response rate, which is really high compared to where we've been over the last. We've been very frustrated to be in the high single digits for the last few weeks. So we had a
Mm-hmm.
Chatham County list that did 13% response, and we had an Orange County list that did 14.5, and then our other ones were 10, 11, and 9, or other three lists that we ran this week. So anyway, that's good news. And then as long as I'm on this report, we got 34 land leads and 4 house leads this week from SMS. And then we had a bunch more come in on cold calling. We resumed cold calling. So we're probably back up to where we've been. Our standard has been 50 to 60 leads. That's what we've been managing in our business, and then sending out like 30, 35 offers. So this week is a little bit of a recovery because we paused the cold caller, but we had 24 offers go out this week, which is back on track because we were in the teens last week after being like
Nice.
30, 35 for consistently for weeks. But our dispo got backed up, so we did a pause. So as far as other KPIs, I mean, the big in terms of victories, we closed 3 deals last week, so raise the roof on
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Awesome.
great start to the quarter.
That's
Yeah, one of
great.
them was some lots in Edgecombe County, and the buyers came to the. I think I shared this last episode. The buyers came to the lawyer, and then the lawyer talked them out of closing because of a survey thing. He wanted them to
Yeah.
sign a survey waiver, and they wouldn't sign it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got on the phone with the buyer and got them to close with the survey coming after closing because that's what they agreed to in the addendum. So that was a victory. Just
Sweet. Yeah.
get them back in and get that closed, so we didn't have to buy the thing and then sell it and deal all this stuff. So
Yeah.
got that, and then um, we sold 2 this week, which is great. I can tell more stories about the closings, and I don't know. I was just looking at victories. So we sold 2. We got 1 with a contract. I'm trying to look. I think we sold more than 2. Hold on just a second.
Yeah.
We sold, we sold Old Stage Road. We sold Hackett. We have a signed purchase agreement on another property that was a really weird property. But this guy, Derek, went back and forth with him on price. We got that locked down this week. So I think my dispo guy didn't mark it as sold because we don't have confirmation of the EMD in yet. And that's when we normally consider things sold. But we did sell three signed contracts. We have one more contract that just needs an initial from the buyer on an attorney change. So technically we almost sold 4, but we're waiting on EMD on one and initial on another one. So good week for
Sweet.
sales. One of those is a subject to. One of them was a piece of vacant land. Let's see. This one was a mobile home we've had since January under contract. And then the one that we sold that I said we're waiting on the EMD is like, I think it was a land campaign, but it's a piece of property that's a corner lot with an old gas station that's totally gutted out, and then like a little house and a shed or a garage on it. So it's kind of like a commercial potential property with it's just a weird property, but we sold it, so it's great. And then other victories, we did save that one deal, as I mentioned. Well, I saved the one that we closed, and then another deal, the seller was threatening to cancel on us, and I got her on the phone. She ghosted for a little bit, but then this is the one where I was saying the reviews helped, because she wouldn't pick up the phone. She was like, "You can just text me, how can I help you?" And that's not a good sign. And then I was like, she said something like, "Sounds scammy," and I pushed back really hard, and I said, "Hey, we closed 50 deals last year, and we have 5-star reviews on Google, and a couple things like that." I just said on text. I was like,
Yeah.
"Check out our reviews." And then she was like, "Okay, well, you can call me." And then I called her and got her on the phone. And so I don't know if she looked at our reviews or if I was just forceful with what I said of like, talk to our attorney, look at our reviews. We closed 50 deals last year with people just like you. Let's do this. We're ready to get it done. And so
Yeah.
I got her on the phone, and we are going to close that deal. And it was a crazy one, because we had already marketed it, and we had this buyer who's one of our VIPs. And when he sees a deal he likes, he is like a dog after a bone. Like, he was calling me, he was blowing me up, and I was like, it was a day where I think I had 2 or 3 meetings back to back. I was like onboarding our executive assistant maybe. And then I had to take the dog to the vet. So I was like, I had a full, and I'm getting texts and phone calls, and I just like couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Finally, I talked to this guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I want this deal. I want this deal. I'll pay full price." And so we got that on one end, and we got the seller ghosting on the other end. So like, I had to get her back on board so I could sell it to him.
Yeah.
But it worked out. And then, but I did have to agree with her to close this coming week, because part of her thing was like, "Well, I've sold a couple pieces of land, and it hasn't taken this long." I guess we were like 2 or 3 weeks in. And so I was like, "Okay, well, we'll close this next week." And so our buyer's not closing for a few weeks because he wanted to do a survey, which is fine. So anyway, we did have to do that concession, but still we saved the deal, and it's a good profit deal because he's paying our full asking price. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's a little story around that one. And then yeah, and then the one big victory this week is that I hired an executive assistant, which was one of my goals. And he's great. He onboarded this week. I guess, God, this was his first week. He did a lot of stuff. He's already met with a consultant for our Podio, and like we're lined up to totally revamp our Podio. And thank you, Jasper, for giving us a tour of yours, because it helped for us to look at your reports and your Podio and see that our reports calculations were not functioning the same way, and we needed, so then we knew what to go to the developer with about what we needed. And so we're going to have a fully revamped and upgraded Podio in the very near future. And this guy, our new
Awesome.
executive assistant, just crushed it with just like hearing what we needed, taking in concerns from the team and fixes that are needed, and then going out and finding this person who's a high level designer and getting them, having a meeting with them on his own. He set up the meeting with them, just voiced our concerns. I didn't need to be a part of it. He just got it handled. So that was great. He also totally revamped our drive. He's still working on that, but Google Drive is much more organized and revamped. And he set us up for LastPass. I don't know if you have this, Jasper. Do you know about that?
I've heard about that, but I don't have that.
Yeah, so we had a document in our team that has all of our passwords for all the shared platforms and accounts that we have, and there's like 20 things on there. It's like PropStream and MailerLite and whatever, Podio, da da da, on and on.
Yeah.
And then we had a team member leave, and so then I was like, "Well, one of the things I want you to do now that you're on board is change all the passwords." And he was like, "We don't need to do that. We can just set up this LastPass thing." And so you set up LastPass and you put all your passwords in there, and then you have your team. They can log into LastPass and they can access any account that's in there. And then if you have a team member leave, you just change the LastPass password. That's all you
Right.
do. And everybody
Yeah.
just has access to all your accounts, and you don't have to change like 20 passwords. So
That's
anyway,
awesome.
there's one little hack that he implemented right away that really helped us.
Yeah.
So just little things like that. And I'm going to have him doing more stuff next week, but really great to have somebody in he's excited to work in the tasks that we need him to do. And he's making an impact already. So very grateful for
Yeah.
that. Just for anybody who's looking to hire people, I think both Jasper and I have had good results on a site called Online Jobs PH for Philippines, Online Jobs PH, and we're not affiliated or anything, but I find a good quality of candidates there. I've hired, our SMS guys from there, our lead manager / acquisition specialist is from there, and then this executive assistant came from there. And I had probably 100 applicants for this job and ended up interviewing probably like 8 to 10 of them, and then found 3 to 4 great finalists. Really hard to choose between them, but really happy with the choice that we made. And we just did a job description, and we used a personality assessment also that we use for our team, Colby assessment. That was the last thing. The first thing is like qualifications, culture fit, personality fit, and then the Colby was like a backup just to check that too, or an additional element to use. But anyway, that was a great thing. If anybody wants to know anything more about hiring, both Jasper and I've heard quite a few people on for our teams.
Yeah.
So what else is there? Oh, I've got a couple other little stories I can tell, I guess. Uh, the old stage road, the one that we sold this week. This one I've talked about on multiple podcasts because we've had it under contract since January. I'm not sure when the campaign started where we first met these guys, but we've had it under contract since January. We've done multiple addendums to extend the closing date because there was a tenant in there that was really, we got under contract in January. She said she'd be out in February. She said she'd be out in March. She said she'd be out in May, et cetera, et cetera. Finally, we filed eviction, and then she was really, really nasty and mean and was like, we're moving out. We're buying a house. Don't file the eviction. And I'm saying it in kind terms, but she was using profanity and being really nasty. And so we did offer we decided to not be jerks about it and not go to the eviction hearing, and take them at their word that they were buying a house and moving out, and they were buying a house. Apparently, I mean, she did finally allow me to talk to her mortgage broker, which initially she told me to go F myself and all these other things, and it was none of my business. And I was like, well, it's kind of my business. If we're buying this house and you promised you're going to move and you say you're buying a house, I'd like to know that that's actually happening, or we may have to go through the eviction. So anyway, they moved out long after they closed their house, and they wanted to come back in after they had already moved out and get more stuff. And then, we had already boarded up the door that was broken, and they smashed 3 windows and like all this crazy.
Wow.
I mean, it made me think that there must be drugs involved here, because how else would you act that way so erratically and crazy? And
Yeah.
then we finally got pictures of this house after, because they wouldn't let us in the house. They wouldn't let us check the identification plate inside the house. We've been through this with the mobile homes, and we didn't really know the full condition. And we kept telling the sellers, like, we're not closing on this until we can actually get in there and really see it.
Yeah.
And so we've got somebody in there to take pictures, and there's like ceiling falling in with mold on it from a roof leak, walls with holes in them, just terrible damage, even worse than we could have imagined. And so we ended up having to go back. My dispo team was like, we're not going to sell this at the price we have it listed at, based on what we're paying these guys. And they had back taxes because the tenant was actually a relative who was living there for free with the agreement that they would pay the property taxes, and they didn't pay them for like 10 years,
Oh gosh.
So, yeah. So they were supposed to repair the house and pay the property taxes. They didn't repair the house or pay the property taxes. And then they were angry that they were being asked to leave.
Yeah.
So, but we run into this stuff, right? So anyway, after all this time, after 6.5 months going back and forth with these sellers who are really good guys and both live out of state, 2 brothers, I had to go back to them and say, we can't pay this price for this property. And it was terrible. And I figured they were just going to tell me to go stick it. But they said, hey, whatever, we just want to get this done off our plate, whatever you guys can do. They asked me for like 2,000 more than I said we could do, and we did that. So we got a huge price reduction. And after we got the price reduction, we sold it within 2 days to somebody who's willing to take on the work that's needed there. So it's supposed to close this coming week. But yeah, I mean, just crazy stories, war stories from the field.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have another one that was supposed to close this past week. We were supposed to have 4 closings this week, and we have a complete ghosted seller, like a complete so like Krisa, who's our acquisition specialist, she had good rapport with these people. They got her like a copy of the perk test. They were very cooperative. We were supposed to schedule on Wednesday, and then they just completely ghosted when she was following up with them to make sure they were ready for closing, like Friday, and then Monday. They just nothing. And so then she was out. She was out Monday or Tuesday because she went on a trip, and so I was filling in. And I called the husband. I called the wife. I had to skip trace the wife because we only had the husband's number. I texted both of them. I sent them both an email because when I skip traced her, I had her email. So I sent them both an email. I texted both of them. I called both of them. Nothing. So then I called them both from a different number within our system, just in case they were ghosting my number or Chris's number. Nothing. So then I used a ghost protocol, which I guess we're not supposed to share, but I used the most extreme measure of ghost protocol that I could use, which is
Yeah.
basically using a masked phone number from somebody that they know, uh, which is I called them from each other's number, and they didn't answer. They didn't answer. So they're like not picking up any phone calls, not responding to anything. And so we
Wow.
did the same thing for another 3 days. Both of us did calls, texts, emails, ghost protocol, the whole thing, and just zero. So they've got to be going with another buyer, but really annoying that they couldn't just tell us they're going with another buyer. Finally, I texted the guy on Friday and I was like, dude, if you're trying to cancel with us, just tell us, make it a lot easier for everybody,
Yeah.
and still nothing from them. So I don't know what, I mean, like maybe there's some outside shot that they had some family crisis or some crazy thing, but for like a week or week and a half to not answer your phone or text or anything, it's
Yeah.
just really
Weird.
weird.
Very
So
weird.
yeah. And that was a good profit deal that was supposed to close this week. And the buyer now is going, what's happening?
Bummer.
Yeah. And then we have another one with an estate file that the buyer now doesn't want to do the work to file the estate with the county and doesn't want to pay the money. So now I'm trying to reach out to him and be like, hey man, we can handle this for you, but the money's going to come out of your end at closing if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can get that to happen. Cause it's a sold lot with a VIP buyer who's ready to go. And he's like, what's the delay? So those are some of my war stories. But yeah, we closed. I've got more stories. I'll try and keep these brief.
Let's do
The
it.
the closing that we had this past week is one I think I touched on, but we closed this finally, and it's a crazy deal where we took over the property subject to, but the seller had a lot of equity, like 35,000 equity, I think. So we took over their loan subject to. We promised to pay their equity through owner financing, which means we're only giving them a small portion of their equity at closing, and then we're paying monthly payments, and then we're paying a balloon payment. And we did that because we wanted to not pay 30K out of pocket right now, and we wanted to get some money in from a buyer. And so we used an open house to find a buyer, and um, he came in and brought in money to sort of cover what we're giving the seller, what we gave the seller at closing, and then he'll be
Yeah.
paying monthly, paying off the subject to mortgage and a profit, which will pay off our payment to the seller every month until we do the balloon.
Uh-huh.
Which will make a little profit on top of that, like 100 or 150, and then we'll pay her the balloon, and then the amount he'll be paying us will be profiting like, I think we're gonna, let's see, it's 650 mortgage and 1175 monthly, so we'll be making 525 a month cash flow on that
Nice.
after we do the balloon. Yeah. And then he'll be paying off, we make 20K, in profit on the purchase price, with the price between what we paid the seller and what the buyer's paying. And then we're charging 10% interest over, this is only financed still over like a dozen years because of the amount that we're financing. And so we get the 500 after a year. When we pay off the balloon, we'll get 500 and a quarter monthly. And then we make some, I think we end up making 30 to 40,000 on this deal with the interest and everything. Derek had
Nice.
the number on that, but I don't know what it is exactly. But kind of a crazy creative deal that we pulled together. But and the open house was a linchpin for making that happen too, because we're not getting any love from anybody on our buyer list. We used investor base, and none of the flippers wanted to touch it at the price we had it at. We couldn't find a landlord to buy it, which it would have been a good landlord property because of what I said. Like the rental's good there.
Yeah.
Um, so eventually we were like, okay, well, we're going to have to get creative here to make this happen, because the seller was freaking out that she was paying two mortgages because she bought a new house. So got crazy creative and did sub two owner finance to the seller and then owner finance purchase. And it's going to turn out to be probably, like I said, probably around 40K profit on a house that has a, estimated retail of 100. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty good. And then we closed that deal that was like one of the first deals I did when I started this business in, I think in 2021, I did that deal. And it was just a property that I bought for, I got under contract for $1,800, sold for $10,000. So, and then the people decided they didn't want it, and we found another buyer and paid off the people who were buying it from us and made a profit on it. So I made like the 8,000 on the sale price, and then I made another. I think we only made like 3,500. I don't know, and it ended up being like 14,000 profit on the whole thing. It upped the
Nice.
profit. Well, no, I forgot about the interest. So it's yeah, we made because I had it financed out over 3 years. They paid interest for 38 months. So I think it was like 12,000 plus three, somewhere in the 15,000 profit on a property I bought for 1,800 that I didn't buy. I mean, I've, you know, I put under contract owner finance. The buyers brought in the 1,800 down to pay off the seller. So another
Yeah.
creative one. Yeah. But yeah, those are kind of the nuts and bolts of those deals.
Sweet.
So it's fun to do owner financing, and you can do a lot more and make more profit if you have that tool in your toolkit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I've got.
That's great. Good week,
Yeah.
especially with Dispo too. That's awesome.
Yeah. 4 sales in Dispo. And our goal with Dispo is to sell 9 per month. So
Yeah.
um, already 4. And I don't know if we sold one last week too. I think we sold one last week too. I think we have 5 for the month already.
Nice.
Yeah. July 1st. Well, one of them is the deal with the ghosted seller, but still a sale. It still counts as a sale.
That's
One,
true. Yeah.
2, 3, 4, and then if we close these other 2 that I said are pending, that's 6. That'll be 6 solds for the month so far with a goal of 9. So let's see if we can blast past that goal this month. Be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's time to wrap it up, huh?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have been slack in posting new episodes, so we're going to get a social media manager to help us start posting these, and there's going to be a few posted within a few days apart, so we can get back up on the normal schedule.
Yeah.
But so we don't have any comments to read this week or any questions, but hopefully next week we can answer comments and questions.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, comments, or anything you want more information on, just leave us a comment on YouTube, in the comments there. Or you can reach out to Jasper or to me on Facebook, Jasper Cool, Mark Cool. Direct message us there. And yeah, thanks for listening. Over and out.